All right, welcome to another deep dive. And today we're diving headfirst into the world of English idioms.
The phrases that, well, they make you sound like you really know what you're talking about.
Like you're not just learning from a textbook.
Exactly.
We're working with a script, actually, from an English lesson all about these advanced phrases.
And rather than just running through all of them, we thought it would be fun to pick out some of the most colorful ones.
Yeah, the ones that really make you go, that's a cool way to say that.
And try to understand not just what they mean, but like how they work, what makes them tick.
Okay, so the first one that jumped out at me, I mean, who doesn't love a good secret? But then you've got someone like begging you to spill the beans.
Right. Yes, spill the beans. It's all about revealing a secret or a surprise.
Yeah, and it's not just about giving away the information.
No, there's a sense of anticipation, a little bit of mischief maybe even.
Right, like imagine you're planning a surprise party.
Oh, yeah?
And everyone's trying so hard to keep it quiet. But you can just see the excitement bubbling over. And that's when you say, come on, spill the beans. Who else is in on this?
Exactly. And you know, the funny thing is spill the beans, it actually has a really interesting history.
Oh, does it?
It goes all the way back to ancient Greece, where voting, believe it or not, was often done using beans. White beans meant yes, and black beans meant no.
Oh, wow.
So if you, say, accidentally knocked over the container,
you'd be revealing the results, literally spilling the beans.
You got it. I mean, isn't that fascinating? Each of these little phrases,
yeah,
it's like a little window into the past.
Yeah. Speaking of the past, this next one, by the skin of your teeth, I mean, that just paints such a vivid picture in my mind.
It does, and it means barely escaping disaster. You know, achieving something, but only just...
Yeah, like by the narrowest margin possible.
I always picture someone like sprinting to catch a train just as the doors are closing.
Oh, yeah. And they make it on just barely.
Out of breath, heart pounding.
Yeah, and there's this incredible feeling of relief.
That sense of, I can't believe I made it.
Right, like against all odds.
And it's something, you know, we all connect with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We love those stories of close calls and narrow escapes.
Okay, this next phrase isn't quite as triumphant. In fact, it's kind of brutal. Throw someone under the bus.
Yeah, this one definitely has a darker edge to it.
Doesn't it? It implies betrayal, right? Like to save yourself.
Exactly, often at the expense of someone else.
Like in a really cutthroat environment.
You see it a lot, unfortunately, in workplaces, maybe even just in social situations.
Yeah, those times when you need to protect your own reputation, even if it means sacrificing someone else.
Right.
Not a pretty picture. Like taking credit for someone else's work or blaming them for your own mistakes.
Yeah, definitely not a compliment to be thrown under the bus.
Not at all. Okay, let's lighten the mood a bit. What about barking up the wrong tree? I mean, I can't help but smile when I hear that one.
It's such a great visual, isn't it?
It is. Like picturing this dog just going crazy at the base of a tree.
And meanwhile, the squirrel is like way off in the bushes somewhere.
Totally oblivious.
And it's a perfect metaphor for, well, pursuing a mistaken course of action.
Like you're totally on the wrong track.
Yeah, but what I love is the tone. It's often delivered with a kind of a playful, gentle nudge.
It's like, hey, I think you might want to rethink this one, buddy.
Exactly. Speaking of wrong tracks, have you ever noticed how bad luck seems to come in waves?
Oh, yeah. It's like when it rains, it pours.
And that's where add insult to injury comes in.
It's like the universe is piling on.
It is. You lose your keys, your phone dies, you miss the bus, all in the same morning.
It's like, come on, give me a break.
And this phrase really gets at that feeling of, you know, a bad situation becoming even worse.
Like a little extra kick while you're already down.
And I think even though it's describing something negative, there's a certain humor in it.
There is. It's like finding the absurdity in the midst of chaos.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some phrases that are, well, a bit more about everyday life, like run-of-the-mill.
This one's all about the ordinary, the unremarkable.
Yeah, your average Tuesday afternoon kind of stuff.
Nothing special, just the usual.
But you know, there's something to be said for the ordinary.
There is. Like, it's not always about the big, exciting things, right?
Right. Sometimes it's the familiar, the comfortable that we really crave.
Like that local coffee shop you always go to.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy, but it's just...
Right? Exactly. Now, on the flip side, we have a dime a dozen.
Oh, this one's interesting. So this means something is super common, right?
Extremely common, and therefore not very valuable.
It's like those trends that everyone jumps on for 5 minutes and then forgets about.
Oh, yeah. Like, remember fidget spinners?
Oh my gosh, yes. Those were everywhere and then poof. gone.
A dime a dozen.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, do we value things less when they're easy to get?
That's a good point. Maybe it's a reminder to appreciate what we have, even the simple things.
Right. Because what's common to one person might be a treasure to another.
Absolutely. Well said.
Okay, so speaking of valuing what we have, sometimes we need to, hit the ground running.
Ah, yes. Hit the ground running.
Yeah.
This one's all about starting strong.
Right. Being ready to go from the get-go. Full speed ahead.
Like starting a new job or launching a big project.
It's that feeling of, I'm prepared, I'm motivated, and I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah. You're not wasting any time.
No hesitation. And I think there's a real sense of enthusiasm in this phrase.
I agree. It's about being excited to tackle a challenge.
It really is. Okay, I think we have time for one more before we take a little break.
Okay, let's go for it.
So this one is, it's about reaching a breaking point. You know that moment when you've just had enough?
The last straw. I know exactly what you mean.
That's the one, that final incident that just pushes you over the edge.
I think you've been putting up with something for ages, and then bam, this one little thing and you snap.
It's the straw that breaks the camel's back, as they say.
And it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Like a series of small annoyances that just build up.
Or one big thing that just sends you over the edge.
And it's a reminder, I think, that we all have our limits.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just got to say, enough is enough.
Well, we'll be back in a moment with even more of these fascinating English phrases.
We're just getting started.
So stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We are uncovering all the mysteries behind these colorful English phrases.
Yeah, these sayings that we use all the time, but maybe haven't really stopped to think about.
Right, like where they come from.
Yeah, or what they really mean.
Exactly.
Okay, so next up we have one that I think everyone can relate to, up in the air.
Ah, yes. Up in the air. It's that feeling of uncertainty. Like when things are undecided, plans are on hold. You're just kind of waiting to see what happens.
It's that feeling of like limbo, almost.
Yeah, it is. Like imagine you're waiting to hear back about a job offer or like a college acceptance.
Oh yeah, those are definitely up in the air moments.
Big time. And your whole life kind of feels like it's hanging in the balance.
It really does. It's nerve-wracking.
But also, there's a sense of possibility too. Things could go either way.
That's true. It could be good or bad. We just don't know yet.
Exactly. Okay, this next phrase, it's not quite as lighthearted. A tough pill to swallow.
Ooh. Yeah, this one is about facing reality, even when it's hard.
Like accepting something you don't want to accept.
But you have to. Like, what if your favorite band broke up?
Oof. Yeah, that would be...
That would be a tough pill to swallow.
For sure, especially if you're a diehard fan.
Right. Or what if you're really hoping for a promotion, but it goes to someone else?
Oh, yeah. Those are those moments where it's like, ugh, okay, got to deal with this.
And sometimes those tough pills, they force us to grow.
That's true. Maybe it's a chance to discover something new, a new path.
Yeah, sometimes you got to close one door to open another one, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Okay, so this next phrase always makes me think of those like epic movie montage scenes, where the hero is training and getting ready for the big challenge.
Oh, pull out all the stops. That's a good one.
That's it. It's about giving something your absolute all, putting in maximum effort.
Yeah, like you're holding nothing back.
Right. Imagine you're planning a huge event like a wedding or a big fundraiser.
You could pull out all the stops to make it amazing.
You got it. It's about going above and beyond, exceeding expectations.
Yeah. No half measures here.
Right. Okay, this next one just conjures up such a vivid image, caught red-handed.
It's like something straight out of a detective movie.
It is. You can practically see the scene, the culprit standing there, the evidence right there in their hands.
There's no denying it. No escape.
They're busted. And there's something about that, that moment of being caught. It's just so dramatic.
Yeah, like the jig is up.
It speaks to our fascination with justice, We want to see the truth revealed.
Okay, so let's talk about go the extra mile. This one's all about effort, isn't it?
It is. It's about going above and beyond what's expected, putting in that extra effort.
Not just doing the bare minimum.
No, it's about exceeding expectations, showing that you really care.
Like if a coworker stays late to help you with a project.
Even though they don't have to.
Yeah, that's definitely going the extra mile.
It can be the little things too, like taking the time to really listen to someone.
Or offering to help out when you see someone struggling.
Exactly. It's about being thoughtful, considerate.
Yeah, those little acts of kindness that make a big difference.
Absolutely. And lastly, we have a phrase that perfectly captures, the power of trends.
Jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
This one's about joining the crowd, right?
It is. It's about embracing something that's popular, maybe a new trend, a movement.
Like when a new song comes out and suddenly everyone's listening to it.
Or a new fashion trend emerges and everyone's wearing it.
Yeah, it's like this irresistible force that pulls people in.
And while it can sometimes have a negative connotation, like, oh, you're just following the crowd.
Right.
But it also speaks to this human need to belong.
Yeah, to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That tension between individuality and conformity.
It really is. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here with these 15 phrases.
We have, and it makes you realize just how much richness and depth there is in everyday language.
Yeah, we use these phrases all the time, but maybe we haven't really stopped to appreciate the stories they tell.
The history, the imagery, the emotions they evoke.
It's amazing. But before we wrap up, we have one final thought-provoking question for you.
All right, let's hear it.
What new phrases do you think will emerge in the future? You know, what words and expressions will capture the essence of our times? That's a question that really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
As we wrap up our deep dive into these fascinating phrases,
Yeah.
it really gets you wondering, like, what will people be saying 100 years from now?
Right, like what new expressions will they come up with?
Especially with all the technology changing so fast.
Oh, yeah. Like imagine the phrases that might come out of the metaverse or, space travel.
Ooh, space travel. That's a good one.
Like,
We might start saying things like, oh man, I'm feeling so meta fatigued, or, oh, my avatar needs a serious style upgrade.
I love it.
Or like, imagine phrases inspired by space travel.
Oh, yeah, like let's blast off to that new restaurant.
Oh.
Or that movie was a total black hole of boredom.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
And it's not just about new words.
Right. Not at all.
Like, think about how the meaning of viral has completely changed because of social media.
Oh, absolutely. That's a perfect example.
So these phrases, they're not static. They evolve along with us.
That's what makes language so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. So as we conclude our deep dive today, I think the biggest takeaway is to stay curious.
Right. Keep your ears open.
Exactly. Pay attention to the way people are speaking, the new words they're using, the creative ways they're expressing themselves.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to experiment with your own language, too.
Right. Try out some of these phrases we've talked about, see how they feel.
You might even invent some new phrases of your own.
You never know. Because language is all about communication, connection, and creativity, right?
Absolutely.
So go out there and have fun with it.
Happy language exploring.
All right, so are you ready to dive into some seriously cool stuff with me today?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, awesome, because we are going deep into a 20-minute lesson plan. And this one is all about helping you master intros.
Yeah.
You know, like when you meet someone new.
Oh, yeah.
And sharing your experiences, like how to tell a captivating story. It's all about boosting that conversational charisma so you can ditch those awkward silences and connect with people like a pro.
You know what I find really interesting about this plan? It's not just about memorizing lines or, like a script.
Yeah.
It's about understanding like the psychology behind a truly great introduction.
Oh, totally.
And they really walk you through it step by step from like warming up those conversational muscles
Yeah.
to actually role-playing scenarios. So it's like you're not just learning the theory.
Right.
You're building real confidence in those practical skills you can actually use out in the wild.
I love that. And you know what else I love?
Right.
How they kick things off with an icebreaker activity.
Uh-huh.
It's so simple, but so clever. Okay, so picture this. You pair up with someone and you share a unique fact about yourself, something that most people wouldn't guess. Like a little treasure hunt of personal trivia, right?
I like that.
So what's something most people wouldn't guess about you?
Oh, wow. Putting me on the spot already.
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe I used to be a competitive ballroom dancer.
No way.
Yeah, it's true.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It gets
Yeah.
you thinking, and it's a fantastic way to break the ice without feeling like all eyes are on you, you know?
It's true. And it subtly shifts everyone's mindset from feeling like, oh gosh, I have to perform or say something super clever.
Exactly.
To realizing that, hey, everyone has something interesting to share. It
Yeah.
creates this instant sense of camaraderie and it sets the stage for, more genuine sharing as the conversation goes on.
It's like a warm-up for your soul.
I like that.
So, okay, you're all warmed up, feeling good. Now it's time to level up your vocabulary.
Okay.
This plan introduces 5 advanced expressions that, let's be honest, make you sound incredibly sophisticated. It's like giving your intros a linguistic makeover.
Love it.
So the first one is, I hail from.
Ooh, fancy.
Now, doesn't that sound so much more intriguing than just saying I'm from?
Definitely paints a more vivid picture.
Right.
Instead of just stating a location, you're evoking a sense of origin and background.
Yes.
Remember the example they used?
Uh-huh.
I hail from a small town nestled in the rolling hills of Tuscany.
Oh, stop it.
Suddenly, you're not just from Italy, you're from a place with history, with charm. Maybe even some delicious pasta.
I'm already picturing the vineyards.
Right.
And it's not just about sounding fancy. It's about being memorable.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to the next phrase I'm passionate about.
Ah.
It's engaging, and it tells people what lights you up.
What's interesting here is that it's not just about listing hobbies.
Yeah.
It's about conveying your enthusiasm and even hinting at the values that drive you.
That's a good point.
So, for example, instead of saying, I like photography,
Right.
you could say, I'm passionate about capturing the fleeting beauty of everyday moments.
Ooh, I like that.
It adds depth and personality.
It's like you're not just taking pictures. You're an artist capturing those little moments in time.
Exactly.
Now, this next phrase is a conversation starter. One thing that shaped me was it's an invitation to share a pivotal moment in your life and show how you've evolved.
It's a powerful way to create a connection by revealing a piece of your personal journey. And it doesn't have to be, some grand life-altering event.
Right.
The example they use is, one thing that shaped me was learning to play the guitar as a teenager.
Oh.
It's relatable, it's intriguing, and it makes you want to know more.
It's like a sneak peek into the experiences that have made you who you are today.
Exactly.
And for those of us who like to explore different interests I've dabbled in.
Ooh, like that one.
It's a more playful way to acknowledge experiences that might not define you, but have still enriched your life,
Yeah, I think this phrase is particularly useful in more informal settings. It allows you to showcase your curiosity and willingness to try new things without feeling like you have to be an expert in everything.
Oh, totally.
Imagine saying, I've dabbled in pottery, and let's just say I'm much better at appreciating art than creating it. A little self-deprecating humor, which can instantly put people at ease.
That's a great point. Humor can be such a powerful tool for connection.
It really can.
Now, this last phrase is all about self-awareness. If I had to describe myself in 3 words,
Oh, this is a tough one.
talk about a challenge, right? It forces you to distill your essence and think critically about how you want to present yourself to the world.
It's a great exercise in personal branding.
It is.
The example they give is curious, creative, and compassionate.
Nice.
And notice how these words not only describe personality traits, but also suggest values and a way of approaching the world.
It's like a mini mission statement for your life.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this arsenal of impressive vocabulary, but how do we actually use it to craft a killer introduction?
That's the big question, right?
Well, that's where the guided practice section comes in.
Okay.
This is where they give you a structured template and an example introduction that flows beautifully.
I love a good template.
Me too. Because, sometimes you just need that little bit of structure.
This template is so valuable because it helps you avoid those dreaded ums and ahs, the ones that can creep in
Oh, yeah.
and make you sound less confident.
Totally.
It provides a framework to follow so your thoughts can flow more naturally, making you sound polished and prepared.
It's like having training wheels for your conversation.
Aha. I love that.
And the example they give, it's golden. It goes something like this. Hi, I'm Elena. I hail from sunny Barcelona, Spain. Currently, I'm working as a software engineer for a startup. One thing that shaped me was traveling solo for 6 months through Southeast Asia. If I had to describe myself in 3 words, I'd say I'm curious, adventurous, and a bit of a coffee fanatic.
I love how effortlessly it weaves those advanced phrases in. You get a sense of Elena's personality, her background, even a hint of her values, all in a few sentences.
It's like a condensed movie trailer for Elena's life.
Right. So concise, engaging makes you want to learn more.
Exactly. Okay, introductions. Check. Now let's talk storytelling, the heart of good conversation.
This is where we go beyond just stating facts. We start weaving them into a compelling narrative, right?
Yes, and the lesson plan breaks it down so well. A simple 3-part structure.
The start, middle, and end.
Which sounds obvious, but having that clear framework makes all the difference when you're trying to, hook people with your story.
It's like building a house. You need that solid foundation, the well-constructed frame, and the roof to tie it all together.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
So for the start, you set the scene, introduce the characters.
Then in the middle, you describe the event, what made it significant.
And finally, at the end, you share the outcome and what you learned from the whole experience.
They use a great example of running a marathon to illustrate this.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
The The story starts with the decision to run despite not being a runner at all.
Right.
The middle dives into those challenges, the self-doubt that come up during training.
And that feeling when you just want to give up.
Exactly. And then the end focuses on the triumph of crossing that finish line and that valuable lesson learned about pushing past your perceived limits.
See, it's such a relatable story because I think everyone has had those moments where they're like, I can't do this.
We've all been there.
But then you find that inner strength and you keep going. But what makes this story so effective is the details.
Yeah,
you know,
the details are everything.
describing the feeling of wanting to quit at mile 18 or that overwhelming sense of accomplishment at the finish line.
Exactly. It's those details that bring the story to life and let the listener connect with the emotions behind it.
It's not just what happened, it's how it made you feel.
Right.
Okay, so structure, we got it. But what about delivery? How do we make sure our stories land with impact?
That's where the role-playing activity comes in.
Ooh, this is where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. So the lesson plan has, you imagine you're at a networking event,
Okay.
and you have to introduce yourself and share a story or an interesting fact.
I can see how some people might be hesitant to role play.
Oh, for sure. It can feel awkward, especially if you're not used to putting yourself out there.
But isn't that kind of the point, to get comfortable with those feelings and develop the confidence to share your story, even when you're feeling a bit vulnerable?
Absolutely. It's like any skill, the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
Yeah.
And the beauty of role-playing is that safe environment. You know, you can experiment, get feedback, refine your approach without the pressure of a real-life situation.
It's like a dress rehearsal before opening night.
Exactly. And speaking of wrapping things up, the lesson plan ends with reflection and homework. They encourage you to identify a phrase or technique you enjoyed using, even write a detailed introduction for the next class.
So it's like learning is an ongoing process.
Precisely. It's not just about memorizing a few phrases or practicing a couple introductions. It's about developing that growth mindset and constantly seeking ways to improve your communication skills.
You're always leveling up.
Exactly. This lesson plan gives you the tools, but it's up to you to keep using them and refining your approach over time.
You know what's really hitting me is that this lesson plan, it's not just about becoming a smooth talker.
Right.
It's about becoming a better communicator overall,
Oh, absolutely.
which honestly can benefit you in every single aspect of life.
Think about it. How many times have you struggled to articulate your thoughts or feelings,
All the time.
or felt like you weren't really connecting with someone?
Yeah.
This lesson plan gives you the tools to bridge those communication gaps and build stronger, more meaningful relationships.
It's funny, we often think of communication as something that just, happens
Yeah.
naturally, but it's really a skill.
It is.
And like any skill, it takes practice and intention to develop.
What I find fascinating is that even though we communicate all the time, constantly,
Yeah.
we rarely take the time to actually analyze how we do it.
That's so true.
This lesson plan encourages you to become more mindful of your communication style and to identify areas where you can improve.
So it's like having a personal trainer, but for your communication skills.
Exactly.
It helps you pinpoint your strengths, work on your weaknesses, and ultimately become a more confident and effective communicator.
And the best part is you can see the results in real time, you
Right.
know? As you practice these techniques, you'll notice that conversations flow more easily, connections deepen, and misunderstandings become less frequent.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listener with a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Don't just file this information away, put it into practice. I challenge you to try out one of these techniques today.
Yes, don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Start small.
Maybe you try out one of those power phrases at your next meeting,
Ooh, good one.
or share a story with a friend using that start, middle, and end structure we talked about.
Pay attention to how people respond. You might be surprised by the impact a few well-chosen words or a well-told story can have.
And most importantly, have fun with it. Communicating shouldn't feel like a chore. It should be an opportunity to connect, to share, and to express yourself authentically.
Every conversation is a chance to learn and grow. So embrace those opportunities and watch as your communication skills blossom.
You got this. We have absolute faith in your ability to become a more confident and engaging communicator. Until next time, happy connecting.